Hello, this is End Times Matrix News. I'm going to run my only promo that I can find. Somehow my song lineups have been moved around to where I can't find them, so I'll just do the beginning of the show right now.
freedomtalkradio.co.uk. This is the most diverse, most amazing, one of the funniest radio stations you could ever listen to on the internet. I've heard so much stuff from the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights,
the politics, the non-politics, the schmolitics, whatever you want to call them.
It's great.
Okay, this is where I usually have my Enter the Matrix song, but I can't find it, and I can't search for it, and I don't know where it is, and I don't know where any of my other things are. So that's what happens when sometimes you share consoles and things disappear to where you can't locate them. But I will get off that. Yes, thank you for tuning in with me today. I was going to cover the New World Order today. Most people know that I've been dealing with a hospice situation where my father is in the process of dying, and I've been spending some time with him, and he's on a slow decline. So I don't know what will happen as far as the time, but possibly within the probably the next week or so, I will have to deal with a funeral situation. And of course, people know that is not, it's heavy on you when you see one of your parents passing away. And I know lots of folks have had to deal with that. I'm not the only one. And in some ways, it's a blessing to see them stop suffering. In other ways, it's it's just another loss issue that weighs down on you, and the whole mortality and loss issues that come down on you are sometimes hard to deal with. So, but it's been nice that I've been able to speak with my cousins that I haven't talked to in a long time, and just touch base. The fun thing about cousins is they always remember you from when you were a kid, and so you get to hear things you haven't heard in 30 years. And so that's been a blessing, and it's been encouraging to me to hear things from them. It's what can you say about it? In one way, I'm happy that when my father does pass, he will no longer be in any form of suffering and dementia or Alzheimer type situation. Alzheimer's people do know that there's a burden that's lifted from the family, and that might sound selfish to others who haven't dealt with the Alzheimer's situation. But you have lost a person for all intents and purposes a long time ago, personality-wise, and you're dealing with a person that has some of that comes in and out. But due to the type of damage that they've been under, their personalities have changed, and they're limited to what their minds will process. So, dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's and all these things that I'm dealing with both my parents is a burdensome type of situation, and it's kind of interesting that it's happening and coinciding with all these other heavy issues. And I know from my mental health training and upbringing and all that, you go through periods of time in life where you have a tendency to feel overwhelmed and you get overloaded. But I'm okay with it. I'm, like I said, it's not something that you look forward to in life, and it coinciding with the destruction of our country and the destruction of our way of life. It just hits home for me as a Christian. What is there worthwhile in life to hold on to? The fallen nature of man and the eventual death that we all face, and the limitations of a fallen body, and So it's joyful as a Christian that you should know that the people that are passing away, if they're passing away, if they're saved or not, and that's really what it comes down to. It's a terrible thing to be, a family member of somebody who rejects Christ as Savior, and you have to witness them pass. And I've seen folks and been related, around folks who have done that. But there's a sense of peace that comes from seeing a true believer who may have lost, his faculties and things like that, but in life that he was dedicated and he was saved. And for Christians, that is very comforting to know that he won't have to deal with the ugliness of this world, this satanic fallen world that is dominated by such evil. When it doesn't have to be that way, but it is that way because the spirit that runs this world, of course, is Lucifer, and it is satanic. So it's going to be nasty as we get towards the end times here, which we definitely are in. We're definitely some people talked with me about, are we into the seals? And sometimes we talk about the first and second seal. It seems like we're already there because of this rampant war that's been going on for since the Bushes have been in the Oval Office, nothing but war. But you could say a lot of things about the past century. So today, the topic I'm going to cover is the New World Order. I'm going to cover it from the Christian background. I'm going to cover it from the dealing with Lucifer, the fallen angel background. I'm going to deal with the secret societies. I'm going to deal with a lot of stuff that is, I think people have a tendency that don't come from a spiritual background to look at these things. They have a tendency to get caught up in the minutia of history, to get caught up in the little intricate details of history. And what you learn is that a lot of history is fabricated after the fact to cover up real history. And I'm going to get into some of that today. I was going to do some news updates as we get started here. I appreciate the prayers. It's sometimes, I was thinking today that I was thinking about the prophet Jeremiah and what a lousy job he had. And, it really was a lousy job. Sometimes I feel worse for Jeremiah than anybody else in the Bible, because here he was seeing the destruction of Jerusalem and the destruction of his people, and his people wouldn't listen, and the people wouldn't repent, and the people are, the kings are throwing him into pits, and they're throwing him into jail because they don't like what he's saying. They say, all that guy ever does is to bring me down. He doesn't give me a good Joel Osteen kind of message. He doesn't do happy talk. And this guy's, all he's saying is judgment's coming unless I repent. And I don't like it, so let's get rid of him. And that's eventually what happened to Jeremiah, as he disappears from history during the Nebuchadnezzar's destruction of Jerusalem. In the second wave of people, I believe he went out. Well, let's see. I can't really remember right off the top of my head. I know Daniel, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah were all prophets at that period of time who were taken out of Jerusalem. And I'm trying to remember if Jeremiah was probably the last one taken out of those three. And he disappears from history in the deserts. Supposedly, as the tradition says, he was killed out in the desert somewhere, and so he just disappears. So here we go with my phone here. So since I was fooling around trying to find my music, I forgot to undo my phone here. But that's the way things happen when you're under pressure. You seem to get more of these fun things. So I'm going to disconnect this phone. All right. Sorry for the interruption there, but this is a tendency of how things seem to happen when you, from my experience, this is exactly how it happens. You just get one nuisance after another kind of lumping in on top of each other, and you kind of got to work through it and just go with it. So Jeremiah was taken out of Jerusalem, and he was supposedly, I'm sure, was killed in the deserts on his way to Babylon. So where was I going after that? I was going to get into some of the other news. So like I said, we're going to cover the New World Order in depth. We'll see how far we get with it today. There's a lot of stuff that's not typically discussed regarding, to help you out with understanding the dynamics. I will say up front here for this broadcast, what you need to focus on is that there is no political solution to what is going on. There is no option outside of the salvation by Jesus Christ to be able to deal with this situation. There is going to be no turning America around, okay? I know that doesn't sound right to say something like that, but you have to realize what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a system that is run by Lucifer, and all the governments of the world are run by him at the very top. And so these people have been wargaming this eventual event here for a long time on how they would deal with the world populations. So they have their supercomputers, their adiabatic computers, these liquid computers, these computers that access the fourth dimension. And they've been feeding these scenarios and stuff to this thing for forever. So that they have a counter move set up and knowing exactly how populations will react. Because this is really what they've been studying for the longest time. When I was even in mental health, taking my classes, and I was reading on B.F. Skinner and his behavioralism, and I said, what other load of crap this guy is. I totally did. He disgusts me beyond belief. And, you know, of course, I didn't know about the Germans and all their inroads in psychiatry, and I didn't know about people like B.F. Skinner at the time that just look at poking you with a stick and seeing what you do, and calling it psychology or psychiatry. And that's what he was. His field of expertise was called behaviorism. And that's exactly what the globalists, the New World Order people want, because they look at humans as cattle, as they look at themselves as a separate species. And until you understand that they see themselves as the demigods derived from the Nephilim, the fallen angels, and the daughters of men, they see themselves as genetically superior to humanity. So when you hear garbage like that the Germans put out with B.F. Skinner and behaviorism and all these kind of terrible philosophies on manipulating and manipulating human behavior, just atrocious stuff, you know. You start to understand, as long as you understand that they think they're a separate species, they're going to operate like they're a separate species. They're going to see you as the enemy, you're as food, or you're as something to be gotten rid of. That's why they like evolution. That's why they like this whole idea that the Homo erectus came out of evolutionary theory and outperformed the Neanderthal. And the Neanderthal, you know, disappeared into the fossil record because they couldn't compete with Homo erectus. That's how they look at it right now. They look at themselves as the elite Nephilim, philosopher kings, Arthur's Round Table. They look at themselves as coming from that whole genetic background, and they look at us as Neanderthal or something even less. And we're just going to be downsized and outcompeted for the resources of this world. And they're going to upgrade everybody through transhumanism, which is a philosophy of directed evolution. Directed evolution means that man inserts himself into the evolutionary process and dictates the direction it takes, which is utter garbage again. And so it's the mad scientists that are at the helm, and they're directing things. So I get really disgusted and sickened by how much time in academia I spent being the docile little follower that just didn't question these philosophies that I was being spoon-fed at the university levels. And in actual practice of these theories, and I'm really, okay, it's good in that I can inform you about my experience, and so can everybody else can inform about the years they spent in different disciplines and the utter waste of time it was to be indoctrinated by these New World Order philosophies and strategies to basically make global citizens. I totally reject all this stuff now. And I totally will unashamedly say the only way out of this is through Christ Jesus, because these people are nuts. They're off their rockers. Some of them are deceived. Some of them are just the Kool-Aid drinkers. And that's what I've seen with the last 2 days of having to watch these Barack Obama speeches about affirmative action and stuff. And I'm going, do you people know that this guy is a blatant serial puppet liar just standing up in front of you? Are you guys just going to sit here and clap and keep drinking the Kool-Aid and listening to this propaganda? And yes, they are. These people are going to continue to clap and listen to this puppet. So basically, I wanted to go ahead and touch on the news stories that I see are pressing today. I'm not going to get very in-depth on some of them. I mean, they're, as part of what I'm covering today, you'll see that I will cover why they're there, and you'll have to put it up with my little bit of reaching for notes and things today, because since I don't have my soundboard music and things like that to take more professional breaks, I'm going to be sipping my coffee and talking while I'm doing different things. There's a couple stories going on today that if you understand the globalists and the New World Order philosophies involved, you'll understand what's going to happen most likely with these stories. I'll touch on the... just one second. Let me get things a little bit... Okay. The first story that is the most pressing as far as the potential for a martial law situation is the militias are en route, is the second American Revolution starting in Bunkerville, Nevada. Those who are patriots and those who are Christians and those who are constitutional Americans know that people like Eric Holder, Barack Obama, Biden, Bonnier, anybody up there in Washington, McCain, all these people are just shills for the New World Order. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But the point is, you look for flashpoints because they create flashpoints. It's not like stuff just happens out of nowhere. This group of people have been trying to provoke Americans for a long time. And what we see here with this Bunkerville situation is an irrational provocation over an Agenda 21 operation where basically we discussed in the past, I think we did, or I might have mentioned it early on, the concept of rewilding under Agenda 21. Rewilding is where you take a rural community of some sort and you make it no longer possible for them to operate as a town or a township. They could be small, 30 people, things like that. And what you do is you move the people out of the area by passing environmental laws. They cut off water, access, things like that. So here we got a fabricated Agenda 21 operation where the endangered tortoise is basically removing some ranchers who are old school ranchers who have stuck it out through all the farmland downsizings and pasture downsizings that the big corporate multinationals have tried to put Americans out of business over the last century, running individual farmers and ranchers off the property so that they can just herd us into cities under the Agenda 21 philosophy. So this has been in the works for a century. They're just implementing different stages. And now with the fascist Homeland Security guys and these people They have their little teams that are set up to intimidate the American public. So this tortoise situation is just a false flag scenario. What they're trying to do is they're trying to, let me just pause for a second. This is going to be one of these shows where you just wait a second. I'll just come back. I'm seeming to have all kinds of fun people interrupting me today. So I'll be right back in 1 second. I'm sorry about that. I had somebody coming to the door banging, wanting me to address something. So, yes, you can see how things get piled on when you're having to deal with things. So, back to the militia story. The folks in Bunkerville, Nevada, are being basically terrorized by the American government under Agenda 21, and the potential here is I try to relate this to it's a powder keg in the sense that you can provoke a population into action by manipulation. And again, this is the tactics of the Freemasons. This has been the tactics of the secret societies. This has been the tactics of the revolutionaries, is to provoke a situation and then escalate a situation, and then they already have something in place that they want to do when it happens. So this is a provocation. So what I would say is, how many of these officers and stuff, or these, who are they affiliated with? Do you have agitators in these ranks that are from the CIA or from certain secret society affiliations that will pop off a shot and get everything started? That's exactly what happened in Crimea, if you can remember. In Crimea, the people were provoked. The people were being sniped by a fascist group of snipers. They were protesting peacefully. So in this situation, you have a constitutional First Amendment free zone. You got a tortoise that is evicting people. You got cows being killed or dying in the care of the United States government. And you got old patriotic Americans being provoked to do something. So you really have a situation that's been orchestrated. And that's what I'm going to get into the story now. An area just outside the little town of Bunkerville, Nevada, with a population around 1,000 people, may go down in history. This little spot on the desert may be compared with Concord, Massachusetts, the site of the shot heard around the world. The first shot fired in the American Revolution, because it looks like the second American Revolution may start there, and soon. So they're basically talking about a showdown today. And there are people from around the country flocking to this site. So you never know who's in the crowd, and you never know what kind of Crimea situation we're going to get out of this. Let's see. Yesterday, it was reported that tensions were running high outside of Bunkerville. Seems that the U.S. government, in all their infinite wisdom, has declared war on a cattle rancher named Cliven Bundy. In a standoff that has been likened to Ruby Ridge and Waco, the federal government has now deployed armed agents in a case of what the U.S. Department of the Interior's Bureau of Land Management has deemed trespass cattle, escalating a 20-year battle over grazing rights and what actually constitutes public land use in southern Nevada. Okay, well, if you don't understand the arrangements that have already been developed to divide up the country between our creditors, the Chinese, and if you don't know that we already have 250,000 Chinese soldiers that are in the United States that are positioned for when the martial law situation occurs to take over the property rights that they have under these trade agreements. Since we've been trading in deficit level, we are being basically, what do you want to call it, liquidated or downside, foreclosed upon, where they take all your property. So as part of a foreclosure process, we have already made arrangements that 250,000 Chinese soldiers have been stationed in the United States to take over and manage their properties. Their properties are going to be the federal lands, the national park areas where there are actual energy reserves under the surface. And so they'll have the right to, shoot anybody or kill anybody that invades their property under the arrangements made between the Obama administration and China. So we're going to have a flashpoint at some point where the government is going to provoke a situation, and it looks like this Bunkerville, Nevada is the point. And we probably will have agitators that are government-sponsored snipers or something like that who start shooting people just like Crimea at some point. So we'll have to see with that. I'm not going to go into that anymore because it stinks to high heaven of a false flag situation. You don't know who these people are that are with the government. You don't know who's coming from the militia side of things. There's supposedly several thousand militia that are being mobilized to go out to this site. And of course, that's, what can you say? This is what the government and New World Order actually wants. They want to, even if all these people are peaceful and they're standing there and they're somebody from somewhere will squeeze off a shot, and then somebody will just, start opening up with the automatics and killing people, and then they'll, call it whatever. They want to provoke a situation. This is why, in the next story that I'll go into, Eric Holder is sitting here going, we want to explore gun trafficking bracelets, okay? This is ridiculous. This is beyond ridiculous that the Attorney General of the United States, whose only job is to enforce the law of the lands that are on the books, is sitting here purposely agitating the American public, agitating on purpose. As a good Alinsky disciple, as a good New World shill, Eric Holder is sitting here doing his duty to agitate the American public. And so he's talking about instituting a gun bracelets, which are basically RFID tracking type of devices that can, And so what they do is they draw you into this discussion and they get you all agitated and flustered. And then, they're trying to promote chaos. And chaos is the term that is being used by these New World Order types. It's called Order Ab Chao. And they're trying to promote this chaos and basically start a situation. There's no way, if Congress actually was doing their job, Barack Obama and Eric Holder would have been impeached already. But as you notice by their skin, and as you notice by Eric Holder's recent statements at the affirmative action meeting that Barack Obama had the other day, and also Eric Holder, they believe that they're doing, this is just garbage. I mean, it's just provocation. They believe they're being persecuted, Eric Holder does, because of his skin color. Any person that is the Department of Justice head attorney, okay, if you look in the mirror and you see your skin color and you're the top of your division, you have no right to be calling racism on anybody. Same way as a Alinsky agitating president, that if you are the first black president supposedly, and you're standing up there and you start doing this race stuff, you're at supposedly the top position in the government. And you want to start racism stuff. So Eric Holder and Barack Obama are both there in position to provoke race riots at some point in the future. And they're doing what they're not supposed to do in their offices. They are dividing and conquering, which is Saul Alinsky tactics, which is also Illuminati tactics. Same thing as, so, I'll just touch on that story real quick today regarding that. you got the leaders, supposedly congressional leaders and elected leaders agitating the United States population, that any 2-year-old can basically understand that they're violating the rights of Americans, and they're violating the Constitution. And they also that clip that Holder also was discussed about being held in contempt of court again for not providing the gun running information to Congress. So you have people who are violating the law, who are at the top of their offices, who should be sitting in jail. And this is done on purpose to agitate and fluster and create order ab chaos. The other news with NATO is that NATO Secretary General Anders Rasmussen is a U.S. puppet paid to trigger a war against Russia by spreading lies over the crisis in Ukraine, says an analyst. Rasmussen is nothing but a paid puppet doing Washington's bidding, Finian Cunningham wrote in column for Press TV website in reaction to Rasmussen's recent threats of action against Russia following Crimea's secession from Ukraine. His job is not to protect Europe, as the NATO literature claims. His job is to incite insecurity and, if need be, an all-out war in order to serve Washington's agenda of keeping Europe and Russia divided, Cunningham wrote. He said Rasmussen has been telling lies in a bid to incite war in Europe with Russia in the hope of pleasing the United States. Such is the busy life of a puppet on a string, bouncing in step with the tune called for by his masters. From here on, Rasmussen should be rebranded as the Foga War, as in putting up a false blowhorn for causing war. The analyst added that the Ukraine crisis resulted from a U.S.-EU coup in that country in February. That coup brought a ragtag fascist junta to power, which has openly threatened ethnic Russians, mainly in the east of Ukraine, he wrote. And thanks to European puppets like Rasmussen, the rest of Europe is now being forced into a contrived conflict with Moscow, says Cunningham. Tensions have been rising between Moscow and the West over Ukraine in recent weeks, with Western governments stepping up pressure on Russia. Okay, so that's what we got going on with Russia. The United States seems to be agitating the situation there, which is obvious if you do any study about the fascist government that they put in charge. Let's see. Here's another article by Senator Sessions. He says a deliberate plan by President to collapse U.S. law enforcement system. He says, our law enforcement system is in a state of collapse, and it's a deliberate plan by the President of the United States, and it's wrong. And people need to be aware of it and need to stand up to it, and I believe the American people are beginning to do so. Senator Sessions rebuked U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder and Vice President Joe Biden for their pro-amnesty efforts. So you come into the country illegally, and the Attorney General of the United States declared that these individuals have a civil right to amnesty. How can this possibly be? The chief law enforcement officer in America. Vice President Biden recently said, quote, 11 million people live in the shadows. Of course, that term there was chosen on purpose, all right? And I'll get into that. I'm going to do a brief little, after I do this news bit here, I'll do a brief little bit on what I see going on with the cultural conditioning of the American people through TV and media and movies that relates to that comment right there. It says, I believe they're already American citizens. 11 million undocumented aliens are already Americans. Goodness. The Vice President of the United States would make such a statement. It's stunning beyond belief. Okay, so that's Sessions, a senator in the Senate, calling that Obama's intentionally trying to destroy the law enforcement system. The next story, which I find very interesting because I keep seeing this story surface in different ways, which tells me it's being done on purpose to put this in the forethought of people in their minds. This article is from the Christian Post. It says, scientists say Shroud of Turin shows Jesus was crucified in very painful position with arms overhead. So the more important part of this story is that they're actually putting the Shroud of Turin in the storyline again for another, what I think I've done maybe 3 Shroud of Turin stories in the past 3 weeks. But the point is, why are we talking about the Shroud of Turin out of nowhere? Why does it keep coming up every week? You have to ask those kind of questions. This is something that happened 2,000 years ago. This is a situation, and now we're talking about the Shroud incessantly. So if we're talking about the Shroud incessantly, will the Shroud be used as something later on? And I say absolutely. That's why we're talking about the Shroud, because the Shroud is going to be used as evidence in the future for something. And I will touch on that in a minute. So let's see. A new study conducted by Liverpool scientists suggests the Shroud of Turin proves Jesus was crucified with his hands over his head in a Y shape rather than to the sides in a T shape as traditionally depicted in Christian art. The scientist leading this recent study says this new crucifixion would be very painful and likely caused asphyxiation for the victim. And I would, as a forensic anthropologist in my past and all that, would say I would question this, because the point here is, look at these things. So one's a Y shape and one's a T shape. When you're suffocating and you're on a cross, you will eventually dislocate certain joints and stuff, and you will slowly suffocate your rib cage, and your arms and everything can be moved around into different positions if you're talking about torture. What I find interesting is they point out a Y shape. Now, everybody who knows the occult knows that their sign for peace is the upside down broken cross, or an upside down Y in a circle. And the occult loves the Ouroboros as a circle. They love the upside down Y, or the broken cross. They convince people that it is a peace symbol, but what it is an occult symbol. It is also the symbol that is used when you have the cross and the Y. It is used as a crow's foot, and that was also used in the occult and witchcraft also. So I just find the use of the term of a Y, because if you put the post all the way through the middle of the Y, you have the upside down crow's foot or the upside down broken cross. And this was the symbol that the Pope, let's see which Pope was. I think it's John Paul II did in Jerusalem with the upside down cross, which is a very derogatory, very satanic symbol. And he knew what he was doing. And all the Catholic Freemasons knew what they were doing by doing that. And they, of course, claimed Peter was, crucified that way. And so, but, to the occultists, they were having a good time laughing there along with this Freemason secret society Pope. So that's the story. They're bringing this back in here. I'm not going to get into too much more of that. It's really not that important. The point was that Christ was crucified for our sins. Christ is returning. The only way of dealing with this New World Order is through Jesus Christ. The secret societies, I think they're going to pull, well, they will pull a big one over on people, because they will use the Shroud of Turin as evidence in the future there. Normally I would go to a break right now, and I don't think let me see if I can add a song here I'm just going to grab a song, since they changed my playlist. I'm just going to grab a song and just add it here, and we'll just see what happens. And if you're offended, I don't know. It's like, but I'm going to take a little water break and get my books, my resources together for this next segment. Hopefully, I'll just play this. If it's really, aggravating, I'll stop it after a few seconds. I just need a couple of seconds to grab my resources here, and I'll get back on here, and we'll get started with the New World Order.
Who are you? Who are you? Lighting 1,000 cities, I opened 1,000,000 doors.
Okay, so that's that actually had a good line in there, or we just need to hold on. So that's appropriate for this show, because that's what we have to do regarding these end times, is we have to hold on to our faith, hold on to ration and reason, not go along with these people. And well, the brief introduction as far as the New World Order is that it is a real event, that a real group, a satanic agenda that has been in place since basically the Tower of Babel. It's been reconstituted, and they have gained access to different countries and things in recent years, in the past several hundred years. But they've always been working behind the scenes. They're not just separate people. They're Luciferians, as they call themselves. They follow Lucifer, the god of this world. It's the God that they believe is the good God, and they believe that Jehovah is the bad God. And so this has been around since man began, since the Garden of Eden. There's been a concerted effort on the part of Lucifer to destroy mankind, and what he does is he employs evil men who want evil, who have no problem with being evil and going to hell, to implement his plans, thinking that they'll be granted some kind of reward for doing it, which is, if you know Lucifer, the father of lies, he's called Lucifer, the father of lies, for a reason. So these men give up their souls. These men come from bloodlines that have been associated with the fallen angels of the pre-flood period. In the post-flood, they purposely mated with the bloodlines that had the angelic hybrid serpent seed in it. I'll touch on the serpent seed real quickly. Why I use that term. There are folks who have studied the Bible, the traditional Christian way it is taught in the West, and in the watered down church messages that you get, is that the story of Cain and Abel is often used as the story of good and evil. Cain was told, if you do good, you shall prosper, and Abel was told, he's righteous. And of course, the thing was that Cain brought a gift to the Lord that the Lord didn't like from his garden, and Abel brought a blood offering of an unblemished sacrifice, and he was praised above Cain for that. And Cain in his heart became jealous and slew Abel, and the story goes that Abel's blood cried out from the earth, and that God heard the resonance of his voice crying out. And then, of course, Cain was marked by God. He was marked for judgment and for being the son of his father, which was the devil, as if you get into that. And, a lot of Christianity, in the theological and the Christian realm, there's been a lot of tampering going on for the last century in the seminaries with how they train priests and how they train preachers. And if you actually study the genealogies listed in the Bible, Cain is not found in Adam's genealogy. Okay, that is a very blatant sign that he was removed, or that he was never part of the genealogy, is what I'll try to say here. That Cain was the result of a Lucifer, or in the garden, basically deceiving Eve into this tree of knowledge thing, and that there was sexual union involved in it somewhere, and Cain was the byproduct of that. And a lot of people poo-poo that right off because they weren't taught that. The point is when you study the scripture and you study the line of Cain, and then you get into all the flood situations, the pre-flood, and all there was just wickedness throughout the earth, and all this kind of stuff. It's obvious that the goal of Lucifer at the time was to destroy the genetic heritage from Adam and Eve. So you had Abel, that was the first child of Adam and Eve who died, and therefore the Jesus lineage comes through the line of Seth, which is the next child. And Cain is marked for, and his line is marked for destruction because he comes from the serpent's seed. So this is what we're dealing with. The Illuminati identify with Cain's line. The Illuminati identify with the Blue Bloods. If you understand the Blue Bloods, they intermarry within themselves. This is a direct connection to the virgin cults, to Semiramis and Tammuz, to Isis and Horus. This is why they intermarried. This is why the pharaohs of old used to marry their sisters, was to keep the bloodline with a dominant serpent seed aspect that comes through the mitochondrial DNA, which comes from women. So the women, that this virgin cult, what they call, the Semiramis did, was that she, through Nimrod, had, let's see what, no, Nimrod, okay. But Nimrod was supposedly the offspring of those, no, let's, see, you get so confused with this sometimes. I will stay away from that story. But the point was that why they did all the incestuous intermarrying was to accentuate the recessive genes in the gene pool so that they could have more dominant serpent seed traits. So these blue bloods that have been intermarrying for all these centuries have been passing along the serpent seed trait through their bloodline there, and they are loyal to Lucifer, even though on the outside they can be the such as the Queen of England, the head of the Anglican Church or something like that. The point is that they have no problem with putting on false, fake images for the herd or the masses, because they are from the serpent seed and they know that they worship Lucifer and their power comes through Lucifer, and Lucifer is the power over these kingdoms. So that's where the serpent seed concept comes from. This is where we're dealing with the Illuminati bloodline that believes that they are the serpent seed or the offspring of Nephilim. And you'll see this in movies, and you'll see this in anything that portrays the Nephilim. They'll see themselves. That's why you see so much of this Prometheus stuff in the movies and all this, because those are supposedly the offspring of the gods. And the gods, of course, were the fallen angels or Lucifer or the other angels. And so that's why you have so much focus on this Greek, Roman, Olympus mythology, is because they're talking about serpent seed hybrids, offspring that transmit Lucifer's Lucifer's serpent bloodline. So the New World Order is a group of this serpent bloodline that are all interrelated with each other, that work on the very interior of the New World Order is the pure bloodline of the serpent seed at the very center of this thing. The exterior and the outer surfaces of the New World Order are dupes or people who have been deceived, who have bought into the Luciferian doctrine that was taught by Madame Blavatsky, who was taught by Adam Weishaupt, who was taught by the Knights Templars, who was taught by all these secret societies that we talked about. And so through the secret societies, we have the serpent seed Luciferian indoctrination that comes down through the ages, and it's kept underground. It's kept within the church through people who, on the exterior, this is the whole wolves in sheep's clothing concept that you get with people who come in unawares, and they spread the serpent or the Luciferian doctrination of trying to destroy from the inside of churches and things like that. So you do have the active intentional destruction of true biblical Christianity by this group, by them infiltrating Bible-believing churches. Many of the main churches that you see that are on TV, such as the Joel Osteen churches or the Copeland churches or things like that are not Bible-believing churches. They have their ecumenical Freemason indoctrination going on there, and they're basically training the world to their communities to be ready for the one world church and the return of the Masonic Christ, which will be this New World Order Christ, which will be the Antichrist, but they'll sell it as the Christ. And these people will have no biblical grounding, so they'll be duped into it. And the people who say that's the Antichrist or whatever will be persecuted and by the same Christian establishment. The Osteens and all these others will say, well, those folks are just, aren't evolved in their spirituality, and that's how the world will look at people who are biblically sound in understanding what we're dealing with. They'll be looked at as this non-evolved idiots from the Neanderthal times, and they need to be done away with because we won't evolve to our next level until we're done with that old way of thinking. So the only way to get rid of that is to go ahead and get rid of those people. So that's what's going to happen. You'll see that the New World Order Christianity or the New World Order religion will persecute the traditional biblical Bible-believing church. And it'll be the Protestant New World Order denominations and also the Catholic New World Order denomination that will persecute the Bible-believing remnants. So that's why we hope for that before there's an absolute, a lot of people call it the pre-wrath, before that there's an absolute terrible persecution of the whole church, which there is going on right now. And that's why I get on to, you will hear me, and I do say that I get on to people about not supporting the Syrian Christians that Barack Obama is intentionally funding and having killed. I mean, I will say that publicly, that he's directly involved with the killing of Christians in Syria. And McCain is too, and Lindsey Graham and all these guys of the New World Order are involved in that. You're not going to hear that from other pastors. I'm not a pastor, but I'm saying you won't hear that from pastors, that our government is directly involved with Christian persecution. That goes against our Constitution, that we're supporting terrorists that are acting like cannibals on innocent civilians in other countries. That's what needs to be said by Christian leaders, and they need to all be saying it, because the point is that by intimidation and by being these milquetoast, mamby-pamby Christians, they're not going to do any justice. They'll eventually be persecuted down the road when they're no longer needed by not standing up. And so that is the serpent seed. That is the flow of what is pushing this New World Order. It's Luciferian. It's a hybrid heritage. It's all over the globe. It's all different races have this in it. It is not just one race. It's refined and accentuated in the blue bloods that are pushing the New World Order agenda because they have their Antichrist savior is going to come from out of them, and this is where we got the Dan Brown Merovingian bloodline story that you've been indoctrinated with. These guys put forth, they've been trying to establish this Mary Magdalene, Jesus genetic history, that Jesus had offspring with Mary Magdalene, and that offspring is called the Merovingian line, and it's believed to go through France, and then, So what has been orchestrated by the Blue Bloods is that they decided that they need to create this line of succession from Jesus to the present time, so that at some time in the future that they can step up there and go, this person is of Jesus' bloodline and is the reincarnated Jesus, and then that's where they're going to pull out the Shroud of Turin. So these Shroud of Turin stories that I've been talking to you about are important because they're going to go ahead and verify the genetic markers that are in the blood of this blue blood Messiah that they're going to roll out. I thoroughly believe that people are being misled by the Barack Obama Antichrist thing. I think that people need to understand that Barack Obama has the spirit of Antichrist in them, just like anybody can be possessed, like the Bushes were possessed in their skull and bones. They're demonically possessed people. They can switch into normal personalities through this what used to be called multiple personality disorder, MPD. It's later been called dissociative disorder. This has been discussed in The Black Awakening by Russ Dizdar as part of this order out of chaos, super soldier fracturing of personalities that happens in a dissociative disorder. So that at some point in the future, when they want to have worldwide chaos, I believe that on some ELF frequency, or there'll be some frequency of some sort that has been a serpentine frequency that is going to be flipped, where these sub-personalities that are demonized, that have this super soldier aspect to this dissociative disorder, will come to the surface, and they might be a school teacher one day, and then they might be a homicidal maniac that goes postal. The point is that they've been saying since World War II, since they've been doing this splitting NPD traumatizing behavior, that they have been experimenting for, it's been about 4 generations now in these Illuminati families, where these sub-personalities are demonized and they can be brought to the surface. And you've seen some people who deal with this, who these things, when they come to the surface and they're demonized, lash out and try to attack and kill. And they have demonic strength to them. And that the other sub-personalities are not aware of this. These are fractured personalities. I don't actually believe that you can have a saved person who was saved before this process was started. I think that you can have people that have a sub-personality that thinks it's saved. But I think what you're going to have is that they have to have complete demonic deliverance and a reintegration of their personality through the power of Jesus Christ to undo these personalities. And there are some folks that, if you search YouTube and other ministries that deal with this, that help these people who have been traumatized through satanic ritual abuse and have fragmented personalities. But I think the whole reason for the fragmenting, and I didn't understand this back in the mid-'80s when I was actually studying this stuff, and I was going, well, why would they want to fragment personalities on purpose? Why would they want to do this satanic ritual abuse and fragment personalities? Why would they do such a thing? I don't really understand it. And I understand now why they would do it, because if you understand the progression of the New World Order, their ultimate agenda is to create enormous chaos, to create a world of chaos, so that the whole fabric of society collapses. People are turning on each other. None of the old belief systems are anchoring people anymore. And out of this chaos will come their Messiah. The New Order is the Masonic Antichrist Messiah. And that's what they want to happen. So they don't care if they got to set off a lot of nukes around the globe to do it. They're going to do it. And that's what they've been game planning. So I'm going to, now that I've set up basically who's pushing it and why they're pushing it, it's Lucifer and his angels that are pushing it from behind the scenes. It is the serpent bloodlines that worship Lucifer that are the blue blood privileged ones that are the inside kernel or the center of the apple. It is the exterior levels that have been illuminated, as they like to say, to certain levels of Luciferianism. Some of them on the outer surface have no idea what's going on. And those on the inner surface, on the very inner surface, are going to be the blue blood serpent lines that know exactly what's going on. And you can't get in that inner circle because it was always a bloodline inner circle to begin with. And they won't, anybody who gets near to this or gets this information, gets privy to this information is, done away with. And it's very easy for these people to execute and do away with people who are privy to their information. I'm just tying together lots of different sources from a lot of study, a lot of time of understanding this. I was privileged to know the multiple personality stuff from my years of being in mental health, and knowing that it's a rare thing to have it occur in nature. You can have an MPD or a dissociative disorder happen in nature. What I mean by that, happen through some kind of traumatic event that somebody experiences, but the prevalence of it and the amount of it happening and the willingness of the authorities and the mental health community did not really, I didn't understand why they didn't really deal with it or acknowledge it very much. They kind of stay away from it. And you understand that if you dig too deep, you're going to come into the satanic ritual abuse stuff. And that's why they don't, that's why they stay away from it, because they don't want to expose it. So I'm going to address order out of chaos, because order out of chaos is one of the central themes that that they talk about. Okay, I'm going to take this from reference work by Tex Mars from his book Circle of Intrigue, because he does a very nice job talking about the order out of chaos philosophy. So in a section called Thriving on Chaos, he talks about Aleister Crowley, who had a spirit guide, Horus. He came across this spirit guide, Horus, when he was led to this object, and I believe it was in Egypt when he was over there with his wife. His wife was channeling a demonic entity, which instructed him that he needed to go to this object in the Egyptian museum, and this is where he got this spirit guide Horus from. It says, "Indeed, all demonic powers are enchanted with chaos, for it is through chaos that Satan's objectives are met. Satanic doctrine teaches that ultimately the New World Order can be established in society only after a time of planned great world turbulence and chaotic disorder. It is this very concept, order out of chaos, which is at the foundation of all Masonic doctrine. Significantly, Masonic initiates elevated to the 33rd degree level are given a jewel to wear proudly. This jewel is decorated with the sign of 3 interlocked triangles representing both the unholy trinity and the number 666. The jewel is also inscribed with the Latin inscription Order ab Chao, interpreted as order out of chaos. The royal secret of Freemasonry, the true word of a master mason, is the word equilibrium." So they're focusing on this term equilibrium here, signifying that order shall be established by the Masonic Society's God-man leader once the chaos is quelled and universal order is established. Students of the world conspiracy will recognize this philosophically as the working of the Hegelian dialectic. Crowley was a knowledgeable Mason, and as such, he knew well the royal secret, that global equilibrium or synthesis was to be achieved as a direct result of chaotic events to occur during the final decade of the 20th century. Then would emerge the new civilization, the birth of a global society led by a small band of spiritually superior men, satanically energized God-men to be exact. Okay, so I think I had another reference here. Okay. It says, what is the high-level Masonic initiate chosen for world service told of the meaning of the royal secret? The word equilibrium. He is instructed that the Illuminati is continually creating and fostering two opposing forces, which clash and compete. Chaos is produced by the friction between these two polar ideologies or groups. and it is through chaos that the plan for a global domination and the self-realization of deity is executed. The heated battle that ensues results finally in equilibrium. The syncretic balancing of the two opposing forces. In all occult systems, since the beginning of time, this system of achieving equilibrium through the planned conflict of opposites is found. International Masonry's most distinguished scholar and occult teacher, its former sovereign Grand Commander Albert Pike, wrote of equilibrium in his lengthy and authoritative volume, Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. His statement came at the very end of his classic book, frequently touted as the Bible of Freemasonry. There on page 861, Pike discloses the ultimate goal of the International Masonic Order, and indeed of its hidden overseer group, the Illuminati. The royal secret of which you are a prince, if you are a true adept, is that which the Zohar, an occultic and Kabbalistic text, terms the mystery of the balance. It is the secret of the universal equilibrium. Such, my brother, is the true word of a master mason. Such is the true royal secret, which makes possible and shall at length make real the holy empire of true Masonic brotherhood. The goal, Pike revealed, is world government, a holy empire, ruled by the princes of the unity in diversity New Age world religion. Pike relates this goal to the teachings of the Zohar, a Babylonian book of Kabbalah, the ancient system of magic and mysticism first adopted by apostate Jews taken captive in Babylon and brought back with them to Israel. The Kabbalah contains the seed doctrines of Luciferianism, which have, thanks to secret societies and orders of the Illuminati, by now been disseminated to all corners of the globe. Okay. So here we have you seeing that Freemasonry is essentially the largest of the secret societies. Because they promise that you'll be connected to when you. The attraction of it is that it's a men's club, and that you'll be connected, and that you'll get business, and you'll be set up as you go through the higher levels. You'll have more access to more power, more things that you want. All the desires that you can want can be had if you continue up the line of Freemasonry. So what you see here, though, is that the Kabbalah is being brought into this. This brings me into a very controversial topic that I'm not going to get into too much today, but that the Christian church has, due to their lack of knowledge about historic Judaism from Babylonian Talmud Judaism, that there is a very racist inner seed of the Illuminati that has this Jewish serpent seed also. It's not to talk about that the Jews are the orchestrators of the Illuminati. The Illuminati have been going on since the very beginning of the Garden of Eden. Okay, so the people who want to foster anti-Semitism by saying that the Illuminati is Judaism or is Zionism or is Israel, they are fostering a falsehood that the Lucifer or the devil once fostered. He wants the absolute destruction of the Abrahamic line, which was the seed line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That came from Seth, that went to Jesus, that goes to the remnant of the Jews that will be sealed as the 144,000 in Israel during the time of the tribulation. God loves the Jewish people. God loves his seed that he set up there from the beginning to the end. The imposter serpent seed that are the Khazar Jews. There's different. And I've done a lot of looking into this. Basically, if you ever talk about the Jewish part of the Illuminati, you instantly get called an anti-Semite. And what I'm trying to say is that the Illuminati uses the Jewish element of the Illuminati to foster anti-Semitism and to spread anti-Semitism. Why would they do that? Well, they do it on purpose to keep the Jewish, the non-connected Jews, the deceived Jews that don't know about this Illuminati connection, to be persecuted by the racist anti-Semites out there, so that the Illuminati Jews can point to their people, to the uninitiated, and saying, "See, we're here to protect and all that." They're the wolves in sheep's clothing with the Jewish society also, and they say, "See, the world hates you." See, and they move the Jewish people into, and I think Dr. Joy is accurate with their objective as far as being in the Holy Land of Israel today is to have it as a kill zone for the genetic lineage of the Abrahamic Jews. The fake Jews, or known as the Synagogue of Satan, or the Kabbalistic Zohar Jews, the ones who practice Babylonian Talmud and do not practice any of the Old Testament. You have to get into studying this stuff for yourself. I'll just tell you that the Karaites, the Jewish group that is a traditional Old Testament Jewish sect that follows the teachings and only the teachings of the Old Testament, that don't get caught up in the Talmud and the Kabbalah, they're persecuted by the other Talmudic Jews, and they have been executed and killed in the past, and they are a minority in Israel today. But again, we've been, our religious Christian leaders, the tops of the Protestant line, the tops of the Catholic line, have kept us away from the information about the Kabbalah, Zohar, Luciferianism within the Babylonian remnant that came out of Babylon. And so if you say anything that is Jewish, because when I talk about the Rothschilds or I talk about the Rockefellers, these are Khazar Jews. These are the Antichrist followers. These are Satan's followers. This is the Luciferian line that are dedicated to Satan. God would never claim them and say, "Oh, you can't talk bad about people who followed Lucifer." God has given us all the opportunity through Jesus Christ, His resurrection, that we can be grafted in spiritually into the line, the Abrahamic line, from Seth through Jesus to the end of those who believe in the Messiah, those who follow the Messiah, those who follow Jesus Christ as Messiah, and have accepted through His crucifixion and resurrection, and by believing that He is Lord and washing themselves in Jesus' blood, you have believed on Jesus to be who He says He is. And we have been grafted in, which is a term used in agrarian topics to mean that we have been added to the true vine that is the biblical vine that takes us back to, that reconciles us to God. So, all that said, okay, they're just like in any group of people out there. There are good and bad, okay, and there are wolves in sheep's clothing. So when I'm talking about the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers who run things, these are wolves in sheep's clothing. They do not have the intentions of the people at heart. They only want to serve Lucifer, Satan, and their fellow little Nephilim bloodlines. Okay. I'm going back to the circle of intrigue because there's a very interesting section in here about choosing two opposing forces and one master. How the Illuminati moves the New World Order forward. And this is, they use the Hegelian dialectic, but I want to get into here because it actually adds some more information. In 1969, in Christians Awake newsletter, a fascinating article was published. Here are a few of the insights expressed in this phenomenal article. The perpetrators of revolution have learned one thing well. They must control all sides. So remember that. For every action, there must be an opposite and equal reaction. Hence today, we are witnessing classic world revolution. Revolution is like politics. There are always two sides. These two sides are controlled, inspired, and guided so that these two sides finally merge into a planned and predicted conclusion. Can you say that this showdown in Nevada is a planned and predicted conclusion here with two sides facing off? Okay? This is what revolution is. When the American people hear the word Russia, they have been conditioned to think communism. The word communist hoax depends on it for its existence. Likewise, the giant military establishment in the United States depends on the Russian hoax. And finally, the fraudulent and shameless IRS tax tyranny depends on it. What the patriotic author of this perspective article was trying to tell us is that the communist threat was and is a hoax. Yes, the Stalinists butchered millions and purged millions more. Yes, they conquered Eastern Europe and erected an Iron Curtain, but it was nothing more than grand theater. All along the capitalist thesis versus communist antithesis standoff was a staged drama of super-rich conspirators. They first financed Vladimir Lenin and helped him and his Bolsheviks overthrow the Russian Tsar. Then they proceeded to contain and yet feed the monster until finally in the 1980s they could find no advantage in continuing their amusing and profitable game of global opposites. The Illuminati told Gorbachev the jig was up. The time for synthesis had arrived. Poof, like magic, the gigantic, supposedly menacing communist behemoth President Ronald Reagan had once labeled the evil empire promptly fell apart. Right on cue. The illusion was no longer needed. The pageant was over. On to a new game for the Illuminati. And this is where it gets interesting because I find, let's see here, that it was strange how they just automatically just collapsed. The point of the communist system was it could never support itself to begin with. The point of the communist rise with Lenin and the communist system that fomented the Cold War was that Wall Street and the capitalists had this prop it up and support it. Henry Ford produced all the trucks and stuff for the Nazis so that they could do the Blitzkrieg and all that kind of stuff. IBM sat there and gave the Nazi Germans the ability to track the genetic line of the Jewish genealogically related to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That was the point. They were trying to kill the genetically Israelite line that's associated with Abraham, while promoting the Khazar Jews to take their place. So the serpent has always been working within this community to eradicate the Jewish people, the apple of God's eye. We are now the apple of God's eye in that we are grafted in as Christians, okay? We do not oppose the Jews or the Israelites or the Israelis in any way like that. But we do oppose satanic forces and Luciferian forces that sit there and operates as wolves in sheep's clothing. Therefore, within you will see that out of this, you have something interesting coming to light, and it definitely is associated with what we're dealing with today. And I want to point this out. Okay. So fascism arrives in time for the new millennium. The new game, of course, the new synthesis, is a treacherous combining of the most unscrupulous characteristics of both capitalism and communism. And what do you get when you merge Soviet communism with American capitalism? You get fascism, and that is what we're trying to look at right now. A totalitarian socialist state in which together the state and a filthy rich corporate elite lord it over docile and suppressed, woefully deceived populace. It is fascism which lies in store for America,
and the world if the Illuminati get their way, which they will. And I'm just telling you that right now. You can see in America right now. When Tex wrote this was a decade or two ago, but when he wrote this, he was writing with the hope that we can intercede and head off the Illuminati. And what I'm trying to tell you is that this merger of capitalism and communism is America right now. That this fascist police state that is being put forward by the Homeland Security, by the NSA, by the CIA, by the ATF, by all these people that are promoting this Agenda 21, support the tortoise, kill the humans type of philosophy. You are seeing America being transformed into a fascist state, and it's not hard to find. And I'll talk on that in a second. Let's see. It is a fashion which lies in store for America and the world if the Illuminati get their way. That is the reason why Gorbachev came to the United States and was given the historic Presidio Army installation as headquarters for Gorbachev Foundation. I believe that same building, if you look from above, the Presidio is shaped in the swastika. If I can remember correctly, when I was looking at buildings and finding swastika-shaped buildings, I believe the Presidio is one of those. You can research it for yourself. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty certain since it just popped up there. Okay, it is why President Bill Clinton travels regularly to Moscow and why America is propping up Russia with its tax dollars. Fascism is why the KGB and CIA now cooperate to jointly harass U.S. and Soviet citizens, and why former communist rulers still preside over the governments of former republics of the USSR, Georgia, Ukraine, Chechnya, and others. So you see here, it's actually a very interesting thing. This book, of course, he's writing referencing Clinton, but the point is this is exactly what's going on, because here they're mentioning Ukraine and Chechnya in a book that's at least 15, 20 years old now. Let's see. There was something interesting. Okay, in the new version of fascism designed for implementation in the New World Order, the upper echelons of the corporate elite are the state. Okay? Understand that Washington has been, when you hear them talking about these guys being in the pockets of special interests or something like that, you're talking about multinational corporations who can afford to influence policy, and that these guys who take the money in Washington are supporting multinationals. Multinationals do not have to be from America. They can be from anywhere in the world, and that's the whole point about what they're destroying national sovereignty through these multinational corporations. And when you look at the behind the scenes of the multinationals, you're going to find Rockefellers and Rothschilds all over the place. They all hide behind all these names and all these board of directors and stuff like that. But when you go right behind them, you'll find Rothschild and you'll find Rockefeller and others that are the blue bloods. So, in the view of the Illuminists, the Illuminati, capitalism gave too much power to the middle class and even to the little people. Communism gave too much power to the bureaucracy and the politicians. Fascism is best because it relegates the bulk of power to the few, the privileged elite, the Illuminati. Thus, we should have, from the perspective of conspirators, the best of both worlds, communism and capitalism. We shall have a fascist new world order. That's what we got. That's what's happening right now. Hitler and Mussolini's fascism was tentative, flawed, incomplete. Besides, it left out the possibility of a Zionist superstate headquartered in Jerusalem. Moreover, even though Hitler and Mussolini were initially funded by the Illuminati and their work guided by the secret societies, Brill, the Thule Society, the two dictators unexpectedly became freelancers. They rebelled against their creators and threatened to set up their own world empire apart from the greedy hands of the Illuminati. Still, the Hitler-Mussolini era had been an approved Illuminati project, an experiment to determine how effective a fascist system could be in controlling the masses. In this respect, it was an overwhelming success. Hitler's Third Reich lasted just 12 years, But though it was terminated by the Illuminati short of its goals, the Third Reich experience proved conclusively to the financiers and other elitists that Earth was like a ripe plum for the taking. With enough propaganda and preliminary spade work, men everywhere could be manipulated through deception to become slaves and cogs of the fascist world empire. So that's what we're going into now. We have fascism. When you look at the Bush family, they're fascists. They're Nazis. Prescott Bush was convicted of trading with the enemy. He was involved with the banking systems of lending money to Nazi Germany during the war. But they basically let him walk. And then you end up with two of his kids or two of his line as presidents. And now they're trying to work Jeb Bush in there, if you haven't noticed. So the point is that CIA, Skull and Bones Bush, got us into the Iraq War. And then we have the Bush 2 kept the whole thing going. And we've lost nothing but total freedom. We lost our constitutional, this Patriot Act, all this garbage that they put on us is to destroy the fabric of our, any semblance of the middle class having any opportunity to be anything. Now with this TPP, which they're coming down with, this is a guaranteed sweatshop that they're trying to turn the United States into. With this garbage that Obama just did yesterday with his 50 years of whatever since Lyndon Johnson's affirmative action thing, whatever. With his what was it? They were having protesters outside that were allowed within the freedom zone. That were the protesters of what is it? I'm trying to. It is the group that Eric Holder has just supported. I'm trying to draw on what it is now, but it's this amnesty group for illegal aliens. That's what it is. What Obama did was he restricted press coverage so much so that any of the not inside press the insider press, the ABC, NBC press, all those press got into the actual building to hear this moron Obama sit there and spoon feed people a bunch of lies about racist and all this justice and all this kind of garbage that LBJ and all this stuff did. It's just repugnant to listen to this 100% blatant lies. And so all the insider media were inside, but the other media that had gotten press credentials were restricted to across the street. And what was funny is they were complaining that these amnesty protesters actually had closer access to this to Obama's big lie event with LBJ. So you can see that what's happening is the media, of course, the internet has been ceded over to the global community or the global fascist community, which is multinationals run by the Illuminati overseeing the peasants under communism. So that's what's going on. Trying to add some perspective to our day's events that we're seeing right now. A little sidetrack from this. Right now I'm currently reviewing Harry Cooper's book on Hitler in Argentina. A very interesting read. Basically tracks the Nazi flow through the rat lines of the Jesuit rat lines from the Catholic Church out of Europe, funneling them down into Argentina, and then having these safe communities for all these Nazi insiders, and the outflow of all the gold and capital that the Nazis had at the time. So it was a very interesting read. I'll touch on that at a later time if we're still on the internet, knowing how things are going with these Waco 2 situations that they're trying to orchestrate right now. The other thing is I wanted to mention we did that show on the Nissan Uprising about all the nasty events that happened in the history of America during April here. And as you can see that I did that on Nissan 1, which was the 1st of April. And of course you've seen several bad things happen, from the Fort Hood shooting to these kids getting stabbed. And there's just a lot of other events going on. And there do seem to be some cases of demonic possession going on also with some of these people in public doing strange things in public. But I do not think that we have seen the worst of it yet. I fully expect much worse situations. Maybe this Waco 2 event, maybe some other kind of event. But they're really trying to escalate things. On a day-to-day basis, or trying to create more chaos. And I keep telling you to listen for the two words they have been trying to show the most of is this word chaos and rise. And I will just give those folks to follow what I say as far as they know that I monitor the media and I monitor TV and I monitor the movies. The Captain America movie that just came out on 4/4, I watched that the other day, and of course it's loaded with New World Order stuff in there. And it is a fascist takeover within the armed, this SHIELD agency that's supposed to represent, which I find interesting. SHIELD doesn't even represent America, but it has Captain America working for SHIELD. SHIELD is just this global, illuminated police force that supersedes even America, but Captain America works for it. Well, within this SHIELD organization, the movie basically gets into a insurrection that occurs within it from moles working for the group known as Hydra. And Hydra is the exact same, and they even talked about Operation Paperclip in this movie. They're so far along, the Illuminati's so far along with their agenda that they know there's no way that it can be derailed. They know that they have a contingency plan for everything. They have no problem slaughtering the entire population of the globe to complete their agenda. That is part of their agenda. So to squash and crush any kind of opposition is not at this stage of their plan. With a completely controlled media that can censor everything from social media to everything else, they're going to have no problem killing as many people as they need to keep things hushed up and to progress their agenda. As I believe with this Waco 2 situation, they're really trying to get us into a martial law situation because Barack Obama has already been implicated with attempting to set off EMP nukes. That's why these two generals and admiral were fired for interceding, knowing that removing these safeguards on the transfer of EMPs, that something was up, and they interceded and they headed off this EMP attack on America by this mole Illuminati collection in Washington, headed up by Barack Obama right now. And, after that, there was more of a military purge that occurred after that. And I reported on that back when that happened. But he's just trying to get us into a martial law situation. And this Waco 2 event, Holder being as nasty and ugly as possible, just giving the American people the birdie finger at every opportunity he can, is just, what am I trying to say? They're just trying to provoke this chaos. So I had touched on, I needed to finish up with the movie, the Captain America. So the point is conditioning the population to see themselves as old America, which would be represented by Captain America, is going to face an insurrection. And of course, as far as the movie public goes, they want Captain America to come out on top. As far as the Illuminati wants to go, they know that they're going to come out on top. The organization was called Hydra. It was supposedly Hydra is the Nazis from Operation Paperclip, and they're associated with the Nazi scientists from Operation Paperclip. And other writers have said that the New World Order is the Fourth Reich. And if you're going by what the definition of fascism is, a mixture of capitalism and communism, they're absolutely right. This New World Order will be an Antichrist-led fascist takeover of the globe. And so I'm putting the connections together for you. So you can see that there's tons of material here. There's tons of material talking about preconditioning the population for the fall of America, for a police state takeover in America. The one I want to show also is that the Illuminati is always talked about from old witchcraft alchemy, and I wanted to apply it to how it works today. So it is this process of dualism, chaos production, that today is resulting in so much bloodshed and chaos. From Iraq to Somalia, Bosnia, Haiti, Crimea, Ukraine, Libya, Syria. In country after country, the Illuminati precipitate and promote crisis so that order can come out of chaos and the Holy Empire can steadily emerge from its present shadows. Again, that word shadows is being used by everybody. In the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is connected to this Captain America movie that was just released, they showed the insurrection, the season-ending insurrection in that show just the other day. And the message that was decrypted was, out of the shadows we come into the light. And then it said Hydra. And of course the saying by the Hydra people is Hail Hydra. Well, Hail Hydra is the same as Heil Hitler, if you look at the double H's. And the people that have been in the Ukraine and Crimea that are walking around with the 88s, those stand for HH, which is Heil Hitler. So I'm tying together the fascist elements here for you. The world's being turned into a fascist New World Order. The Fourth Reich is rising. That's what we're getting into. So we're going to talk about the alchemy and how it plays into that now. What is being played out on the world scene is, in effect, alchemy. In the medieval ages, sorcerers, magicians, and esoteric philosophers suggested that baser metals like lead could be transmuted into gold. They also believed that through alchemy, man in his old age could be transformed into youth, regenerated. Okay, this is the Ouroboros. This is the circle. This is the target emblem of the circle. The Ouroboros is the circle, the red circle, the regeneration, the reincarnation, basically. So I'm trying to tie together more symbols with you. Let's see. The quaint beliefs of the alchemists were expressed in many books and treatises, but in fact, these writings were philosophically disingenuous hoaxes. What these evil occultists were really stating was not some new way to produce gold and become materially rich. They were elaborating the satanic principles of world revolution. The alchemists had bought into the theory of man's progress to self-divinity. Their doctrine was that man could achieve perfection through his own efforts. He could become God. The Freemasons, if you get into their stuff, you will see that they talked about the perfectibility of man. They are trying to create the perfected man. Here's the garbage right here in front of you. It's alchemy. It's the old witchcraft alchemist agenda of through man's efforts he can perfect himself. This is Luciferian stuff. Okay? So put the pieces together. Okay. Transforming lead and baser metals to gold through a magical formula and renewing youth, Ponce de Leon's Fountain of Youth myth, for example, were mythical expressions of the desire to conduct occultic experiments designed to catapult base, inferior man to godhood, and to return the decaying earth to a state of pre-evolutionary perfection. You're getting into some weird stuff here. This cuts to the core of the philosophies underlying the evolution of man, and using the term the evolving of man and alchemy and Luciferianism. You're going to see it all come together here. The alchemists were in reality revolutionaries, the Marxists and Hegelians of their day. They sought to return man and earth to the blissful state of their origin. And you'll be amazed where the origin is for these people, where it represents the spiritual state it is. So through chaos, they would hasten the evolution of man to his original divine status before the Adamic fall. In sum, the goal of alchemists was to undo God's work. In the Garden of Eden, God had placed a curse on the earth and upon man, but the alchemists believed that their deity, Lucifer, could reverse nature's decay, overcome man's limitations, undo the curse, and in effect, regeneration. Do you see how crazy this is? Do you see the craziness of these crazy people? Okay? These people are sitting there shooting a bird at God, saying, we don't want you, our God. We want Lucifer to restate us from this fallen nature back into pre-Adam and Eve state, where we can live immortally, have immortality in the flesh. This is the transhumanists. This is the Luciferians saying that we have been promised godhood by Lucifer for following him. Fallen and unregenerate man then has since Babylon, even before, ever proposed that freedom from God and self-divinity could be attained through chaos. At first, it was thought that man's perfection, the wringing of order out of chaos, could be achieved through natural evolution. There's Darwin. Via gradual metamorphosis. No, gradualism in evolution. There's a term called gradualism, and there's another one that has more chaotic elements to it. But later the idea spread that evolution can be speeded up and induced, that is, created from chaos. Evolution gave way to revolution. So how many of these stupid shows on TV, like Revolution, that we are forced to watch, that has evolution, is part of revolution? You will see people having this satanic, Luciferian, Marxist, anti-Christ philosophy, anti-God philosophy. So Satan's revolutionary disciples girded themselves for battle. Their ageless foes were God and his people. Their weapon was to be revolutionary activism and creative destruction, order ab chaos. The global conspiracy took on a new, more forceful dimension. So now we have with transhumanism, and we have with all this, we have directed evolution. So what is the pre-Adamic state? The pre-Adamic state is Adam and Eve in one body. What is that? That's a hermaphrodite. Do you see the insanity of these people? They believe in the fusion of opposites. And if you go into occult and you study any of the occult into its degrees, you will see they actually have terms for the marriage of heaven and earth, the marriage of opposites, the feminine with the masculine, the yin and the yang, the fusion of opposites. This is they want it all incorporated into one, which is the hermaphrodite. So am I laying it on heavy for you today? I guess I am. Because you haven't heard a lot of people talk this way. I'm sure you haven't heard a lot of people talk about this type of way when looking at the spiritual nature behind the New World Order, the Luciferian agenda, which is to get us back to the hermaphrodite, or to get us into that immortal state of the fusion of opposites. So, can you say separation of church and state? Can you all entertain that thought? Is there a separation of Lucifer and state? No, there isn't. So, this is only when people say separation of church and state, it's to get rid of the Christians. It has nothing to do with getting rid of Lucifer and his philosophies, or having these Luciferians run everything. Do you actually think that the world runs without people who have spiritual agendas attached to everything that's going on? Are you that naive to think that you've been going through your whole life thinking that this intellectual community at the university who has agnostic and atheistic belief systems aren't being directed by a Luciferian doctrine behind them, even if they're too idiotic to understand that they've been played? That's what I'm saying to you today. So I wanted to touch on the recruitment process and how the Illuminati recruited and how they implemented these things. The inner circle of the Illuminati has developed a sophisticated and intensive system for the recruitment, training, discipling, and supervision of candidates for key positions in their far-flung global empire. Talented and gifted young men are often chosen at an early age and grouped by handlers. This system of recruitment is modeled after that of Illuminati founder Adam Weishaupt. As Nestor Webster in Secret Societies and Subversive Movements remarked, in order to give a good appearance to the order, Weishaupt particularly indicates the necessity for enlisting esteemed and respectable persons, but above all, young men whom he regards as the most likely subjects. I cannot use men as they are, he observes, but I must first form them. Youth naturally leads itself best to this process. Seek the society of young people. Can we say Common Core? Can we say indoctrination? Can we say brainwashing? Can we say stealing kids from their parents and indoctrinating them? And then seeing the cream rise to the top of this group of indoctrinated, and then selecting out of the indoctrinated to become part of the illuminated. Okay, there's a movie out right now called Divergent, which is all about taking all the children and sending them to the centralized testing, and those who are found to be divergent or not have the state globally desired aspects, or who could become an insurgent population later on, are eliminated. So here we have this indoctrination. This is the part of the communist indoctrination of brainwashing here that comes straight out of the Illuminati. Weishaupt writes to Ajax, watch them, and if one of them pleases you, lay your hand on them. Seek out young and already skillful people. Our people must be engaging, enterprising, intriguing, and adroit. Can you say Bill Clinton? What do people always say about Barack Obama and Bill Clinton? They say, oh, they get along great with people. They're BS artists. They can sit there and bull-faced lie to you right in your face, play and schmooze you, and then have no problems about going back and smoking crack or doing something else. So Weishaupt explained that beautiful people are more fitted to the work of the Illuminati because such people have generally gentle manners, a tender heart, and are, when well practiced in other things, of the greatest use in undertakings for their first glance attracts. But their spirits, they are, however, also less disposed to riots and disturbances than the less unattractive. That is why one must know how to use these people. Above all, the high, soulful eye pleases me, and the free, open brow. So the point is that they're saying we got to get attractive people. We got to get attractive people to buy into this indoctrination for Lucifer. This ties in for me that the thing about elected officials, why do they choose tall people, or why did they choose relatively attractive people, or people with full heads of hair, or things like that? Because they want to sway the masses by playing on what the world sees as beautiful or whatever. So they say we want them to look the part. We want them to be identified by the cattle, by the sheeple, as people that they can be persuaded by their good looks. So with this steps right into Hollywood. Does Brad Pitt work for the Illuminati? Yes, he does. Does Hugh Jackman work for the Illuminati? Yes, he does. Does Captain Picard work for the Illuminati? Yes, he does. Does everybody in Hollywood that's a mainline movie person work for the Illuminati? Sylvester Stallone, the Nazi Terminator himself, do they work for the Illuminati? Yes, they do. Okay? So you have this system that plays with the attractive people, indoctrinating the sheeple through the movies, through media, and spouting out the Illuminati lines, okay, about we need to have one world government. We need to operate as one. We need to have Ronald Reagan and his alien threat so that we must unite together, both communists and capitalists under fascism, and come together for this Messiah that's going to come through the blue bloods that they already got out there ready to roll up on the scene, to have the Shroud of Turin validate that he is the resurrected Christ. The Gnostic Christ is coming. The Gnostic Antichrist is coming. The one world religion Christ is coming. Okay? He's here. Barack Obama is not going to be that Antichrist. Barack Obama is one of the ones bringing chaos and plowing the field, they say. You know, he's plowing the way, doing the dirty work, being the fall guy, and that's what the racist Illuminati is all about. You got the, look at this. How do you get to the highest levels of power with the Illuminati? You be the black guy that deceives the black population into following them, and you try to foment a race wars, and that's the payoff for these guys getting to eat at the Illuminati table. Eric Holder and Barack Obama. They do the dirty work for the blue bloods. And I have a lot more as far as dealing with where this New World Order is going. But there's a ton of stuff I dumped on you today. And I'm sorry I didn't have my sound system set up. The files have been moved around. And I can't find them. So, now I know I have to go and locate them before the next show, if they're still there, or re-upload some of it. But that's where we're dealing with. And I'm trying to reiterate over and over again. We're going into Palm Sunday this weekend. Palm Sunday is the day that Christ entered Jerusalem, and the people greeted him as the Messiah, basically, as the king. And they laid down their palm fronds on the ground as he came in on the back of a donkey, and fulfilled prophecy by riding this donkey. I don't have the actual scripture in front of me, but it was a fulfillment of prophecy. So we have the Messiah coming, the king that would free the Jews from from the fall, that would become their king, and they would be his people. And then following Easter, of course, we have the crucifixion, and we have the resurrection of Christ, and we have the shedding of the blood for the sins of all. The final sacrifice that's ever been needed. That's why you don't have to have the temple sacrifices like the Jews are believing they have to have, because Christ was the final last sacrifice. And that's what they'll find out in the tribulation period, is that the Messiah was Jesus Christ. But the point is, we're looking at major craziness in this month. We're looking at a Christ and his history of going to Jerusalem and being crucified, sacrificed, and resurrected. And through his resurrection and defeating of death, giving us the opportunity, by believing in him as the Messiah, as Lord and Savior, as the only way to God, giving us the opportunity to be undo this curse that has been placed on us, to have eternal life with Christ. And Lucifer's days are numbered now. They're coming to an end. And he's going to do his order ab chaos through the New World Order. And these Bushes and Obamas and Rockefellers and Rothschilds and every other world leader out there that's a Freemason or a member of some other secret society, who are all working on behalf of Lucifer, they will all end up burning in hell for eternity with their god, Lucifer. And they'll be sitting there looking at this guy, going, "We followed you." But what can you expect from a religion that thinks that killing everybody is a good thing. Honestly, how brainwashed do you have to be sitting there looking at killing other people's kids, other people's wives and husbands and this and that, perpetual war, perpetual chaos? How crazy do you have to be to believe that that somehow has something to do with being righteous? So I'm going to sign off for today. I'm sorry that I had a little bit of a discombobulated beginning there. But really what you need to do is you need to get on your hands and knees, repent and turn from your sins, get ready for the return of Christ, and whatever we have to face with this New World Order. I mean, whatever level of persecution comes our way. What I say to people is, I say, are you all in? And what I mean by that is, are you still attached to this world? Are you attached to the things of this world? Well, Lucifer runs this world, and people have been trying to get everything they can get in this world by cutting deals with them, and have always ended up losing their soul in the process. So are you all in? That's my challenge to you today. Are you all in as far as serving Christ to the end? Finishing the race, finishing across the finish line. This New World Order will not be stopped, and the only time it's going to be stopped is at Armageddon by Christ coming and slaughtering the whole mass of Antichrist, Luciferians, all standing there opposing him. I don't want to be around during the tribulation period for that. I don't think anybody who's halfway sane would want to see what the tribulation is like. It's the most evil time in the history of man. No man has faced what's going to happen in the tribulation. You don't want to be there. And these are the last moments of the church and of the Christian message going out to the world, that you want to repent, turn from your ways, not face this stuff. Even if you're killed in a FEMA camp, or even if whatever happens to any of us, you don't want to be there for what happens to these antichrists, these rejectors of the Messiah, these Luciferian, Kabbalistic, Wiccan worshiping, witchcraft worshiping people. You don't want to be there for what happens. And it's like, I pray for these people that they'll come out of their delusion, that they don't lose their soul eternally. I pray for even Barack Obama. I even pray for Eric Holder. These people have sacrificed their souls and are going to pay an eternal penalty for it. I pray for people like Katy Perry, and I pray for people like Kesha and Rihanna and those types. They're exchanging their souls for a temporary Luciferian nightmare, and pray for them too. These people are not our enemies. We are supposed to pray for our enemies because we know we have been redeemed, and we were enemies of God once. Those of us who are Christians know we were enemies of God. We know how the unsaved world thinks because we were unsaved, and we know how the wickedness of our heart can be extremely wicked. So we know what it's about when we remember before being redeemed and having the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. So for this week, pray for these people that are out there in Nevada that are facing down with the government. Pray that sanity returns and that we are not plunged into a martial law situation with the likes of Barack Obama and Eric Holder and the rest of these Homeland Security and NSA nut jobs. So for Tim Clark, End Times Matrix News, this is, I think I'll do a two-part on this New World Order. We'll get into the Antichrist, the Beast, the Masonic Christ, the Masonic, most likely where it's going to come from, the Antichrist of the Blue Bloods, and I'll talk in that more depth on the next show. We'll call it New World Order 2. I'll see you on Tuesday. Watch out. This is Nissan, the month of Nissan in America, and we've already had a lot of terrifying things happening, and we've had preconditioning with the movies and with TV about the fall of the United States and the trust no one topic that you keep hearing. So the out of the shadows thing is directly linked to that Maserati commercial where they talked about from the Super Bowl coming out of the shadows and striking. And I'm hearing a lot of that out of the shadows stuff and rising stuff and order out of chaos stuff. And it's only temporary though, people. Just remember that when Christ comes to reign and get us out of here, that's eternal. This is temporary. Put it in perspective. Don't give in to fright and fear of these bums. It'll be over in a short amount of time. Only a certain number of years that have to deal with these people. And we get an eternity with Christ. So I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.
freedomtalkradio.co.uk. This is the most diverse, most amazing, one of the funniest radio stations you could ever listen to on the internet. I've heard so much stuff from the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights,
The politics, the non-politics, the schmalitics, whatever you want to call them.
it's great.